Got a little soul speak on the ascension that we all share. This unveiling, this apocalypse. You know, all this discussion of what is reality, conspiracy, heresy, truth that's stranger than fiction. Doesn't get any better than this. It's not just time to bring on the apocalypse, it's time to start riding it. It's not going to hurt us. Because one thing's for sure, in our conscious mind and even in our subconscious, if that's what you want to call it, we have always survived. And the reason for that is because we never die. So when it comes to ascension, what else is there to talk about? This ascension, unveiling, is not complicated. It's just a microcosm of the state of our being from any point, from this present moment to any point in our past. And in regard to the past, now we can look back to see, to awaken without the element of linear time. Yeah. Because the wisdom still comes, because the universe is never late. That means we can take from our past the powerful wisdom of the eternal moments, seen when we unveil the hurts and the blame given and received. You know, we've reached a point where forgiveness will cease to exist. Because perfection did not create forgiveness, but as a path to a higher perfection, a new reflection of itself, of ourselves. Yeah, it's true. It's just not necessary forgiveness, and neither is earth love. So we can stop chasing both right now and all the false securities and failed searches that go with the lofty goals of a moral world. Both the things that they put beyond our reach and the reasons they gave us for not being able to reach them. It's time to re-enter the fold of the immortal, the fold of the I Am soul. How's it going, everybody? Thanks for coming in. We're going to have a sit-down chit-chat with Franco and see what's happening. Lots happening. Feels like it. Today's been, seems like a lot of energy coming in this morning and this early afternoon. See, can you hear me, Franco?
Yes. Okay. I'm just making sure everything's good. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties over here on the phone, but we're okay on camera, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, that was cool meeting your friend. He's a very cool guy. A lot of synergy there. There's no coincidences. This morning seemed to be, I don't know, man. I woke up in the middle of the night. I went back to bed. I think I got up about, 8 o'clock, and I just felt something come in. It was just like, I don't know how to explain it. And I kind of did what your friend said, what Marco said. When I asked him, what do you do when you get triggered now? I'm not saying I had the right answer, but I just kind of like surrendered to it. And it took about 2 or 3 hours. And even when I started the show with him, I was still feeling the effects of it. And then the crazy thing is Morgan laid down about 10:30 to start writing some stuff, and she crashed for 5 hours. So I don't know. I don't know how that works. Is there any reason for that?
Well, yes. I mean, now that we've gotten some of these changes taken care of, and we're really doing a lot of integrational aspect of it, with a lot of the rewiring and reprogramming that's taking place within us at this point in time, we actually are kind of taken offline time to time from your regular whatever is going on in your life to have those downloads to be integrated, those adjustments. Because if you're active, constantly active, doing things, it actually slows down the process, and it can cause some confusion. And this is one of the things that with this last energy that just came in the last couple of days, and specifically this morning, a lot of people felt it. There was a sense of confusion, but also a sense of tiredness and feeling that in a way you'd rather be sleeping the whole day or something. And it's not because of a tiredness of, the regular exertion that we go through every day, or just, it's more because that is a time that you are actually making a lot of modification. It's, for example, like a computer itself, at times you allow it to reboot, to go to shut it down and restart it again, so that the changes and the new programs put in could align with the operating system. And sometimes what happens, you have to start it more than once, because when you're activating other programs, for other software programs. So that's the same thing that's happening with us right now. So, and also energetically, the body is being affected, and it's not a negative thing. It's just the fact that you need rest, or the fact that you feel tired and so forth. Respect the body. And I know many of us have a lot to do, because we have plans, we have commitments per se, for example. But it's really beneficial to take the time and say, okay, I got to do some me time, and my me time means I just have to allow whatever's going through to go through. The other part of it too is, if you do get triggered with certain programs and so forth, it just to be present with whatever has come through you at that time, or whatever program is coming up for you at that time, and any emotions attached to it. By allowing it to sit with it, your new operating system actually can adjust it and actually put it in its proper category of importance and how it should affect your life, by just being, just letting it take its course rather than trying to fix it all the time. Now, there are going to be situations where you may, while you're in that state, you may ask yourself questions in the sense of what's really taking place, what do I need to see clear, whatever it is, without any judgment, because the judgment makes it actually harder to work with. And that's why you said, you surrender to it, because in that way you're actually going to observer state and say, okay, let me observe. Let me just be present with this. Let it allow to come through me, because I haven't given it the opportunity to come through. Because a lot of times what happens is, when we get triggered, we react, and we don't really want to experience what's been triggered, because we may think it's bad, or the fact it's inconvenient, or that, there's something wrong with me reacting this way or feeling this way or something like that. So we just basically are stifling it down. Now it's becoming more and more difficult to do so. So by allowing it just to come to the surface and just air out in a way, and it's not being projected out, it's just being present with it. Being present with it is the most powerful state about it.
Yeah, and when in doubt, take a nap. I'm just kidding. But
that has a lot of value, what you just said, that taking a nap, because it gives you a chance to actually get out of the way and let it process within you.
Yeah, I like that. And again, I just stumbled across it because I didn't really have a choice. I woke up and then I was doing my thing. The next thing I know, I'm going to get ready in 30 minutes. And I went for a long walk out here where we're staying in this remote area. And I was hearing nature, I mean, if I can do anything, I mean, I can connect more naturally and easier to the surroundings, especially in a place like this, the animals, and they all just came out. And everything was in that unspoken language, and it's like everything's okay. And I look at my phone, it says 3333. I look later, and there's 44 messages, and 44 of this, and 4 of that, and 4 of that. And so I was like, okay, it's okay, but I didn't feel good, and used the word confusion, and I was like, and I was a bit confused, but I just kept whatever came up, I just surrendered to it, and then acknowledged and recognized the alignment of the animals and the wind and the leaves and the trees and everything that was kind of speaking to me, and then the contrast with her, crashing. And I've done that, and that's what I felt like doing. So, but I guess what you're saying is that it's in one way or another, whether it's the physical body and or more bodies that we're composed of, we're we're transforming. I guess
Mhm.
we're preparing or transforming for more light to come in. Even, and I guess for all intents and purposes, that was a light of some sort coming in today.
Yes, yes. And that light that comes in at this point in time is to bring you more into alignment of your true nature. So it's going to end up playing a role in a sense where, you know, for you to be able to integrate it and to start utilizing it, it needs to purge. So at times, the nap, like you said, or just taking an opportunity to go in nature allows more of that to take place, rather than still trying to maintain your craziness or all the stuff that's going on every day, every moment, to do it then, because then you're not in that state that you could do it. Now, a beautiful thing about being in nature, it more emanates the higher consciousness essence and the energies, not only from Gaia, but from sourceness that holds the space of Gaia and all the animal kingdom. Because when you're dealing with people that are going through whatever they're going through, and they're in various states of awareness or states of consciousness or states of reaction and so forth, that you're getting bombarded with a lot of different other energies, and it actually only stimulates more confusion and less opportunity for you to actually connect with yourself. So that's why meditating is great, or taking a nap, like you said, or being out in nature, because you're kind of pulling yourself away from it. But the beauty of being in nature itself, even if you're in your place and there's a lot of people around you, you're still kind of feeling their energy. Even if you're taking the nap or doing the meditation, you have to really now tap into your core energy and make that the focal point. Then the rest of it doesn't affect you. When you're in nature, you don't even have to do that as much, because it actually stimulates you to be more in your natural state, because it emanates natural state when you're in nature.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that was really interesting that that our friend, our brother Marco said, he was talking about how we're coming into a time when those like him, I'll use that, and you and the Morgans of the world, will be in demand. This is the reason I bring this up, is because I listened to a Cryon thing about 3 days ago that was from just the last week or so, and he was talking about the same thing. He was saying that we're reaching a time now when these that were basically the odd ones out, that were both seen for what they could do, but also set aside from society or communities or whatever. He even went on to explain that even occurred in the indigenous communities, that they had to live outside of the village because they had so much attention coming at them. Super empaths, or whatever you want to call it. Some other people had said the same thing. Are you getting that intel? Is that something that resonates with you?
Well, absolutely. And it's being more obvious too, because people are gravitating to people that actually are sharing of more higher consciousness, more clarity, that are actually more open in looking at what's playing out, rather than trying to fit into the mold that everybody has gone through. Because the thing is, when we were playing the game of the mold, I'm talking about everybody's trying to replicate each other and trying to play the systems, the games, and so forth. The outsiders actually, what we called outsiders, the ones that were a little bit more in tune with themselves, felt very awkward for two reasons. One is because it didn't match where they were trying to hold on to. That was the first part. So here they are trying to play the game, but you're now holding a thing that does not allow you, or doesn't match to the fact of playing the game. and so you're kind of pushing that. The other part of it, which is the interesting part, is these other ones that were the outcasts, or whatever you want to call it, carried an energy that reminded them of their own essence that they were trying to stifle as much as possible. It's like this, when somebody says to you, somebody's going through an experience, and they say, they don't want you to tell them what you see, because it makes them more uncomfortable. They'd rather just keep getting the lie. For example, let me hear what everybody else is saying rather than telling me the truth, because the truth actually makes me even more uncomfortable, because I know I'm not in my truth, sort of thing. I'm just using that as an analogy. So they're activated on 2 points. But now what's happening is more and more people are abandoning this cluster of saying, oh, okay, I want to play the game. I want to play the game, because the games feel so awkward, and they're feeling more uncomfortable with the game. And now, because they've played the game so long, they feel also lost in a way where, how do I start to transition? How can I connect with people that will remind me, people that will activate within me, and so forth? And that's where the demand comes in. And this is what I've noticed, that more and more people are more interested in finding out about the true nature of our design and how we function, why we are one way versus another way. And then there's all that nagging part within themselves that always emanated way more than they've been living. And that's become so prevalent now. It's like, okay, I have to really now see what's going on. I need to acknowledge that part of me that I've tried to put to sleep for most of all my life.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then with the 2020 on the horizon, and I think the date you gave, that the implanted ego would be dissolved, although the current of it would continue on as long as we allowed it, or whatever, is around the December 20th or something like that, I believe.
Yeah, around the December 20th, 21st, we're basically, what it is really, so that I clarify that, it is the inverted matrix projection that is deactivated fully. Now, the ego will still be active. It just will not getting any new streaming of information and support. So it will be an isolated operating system, which will make it easier for people to be able to acknowledge it and shift away from it. Now, the fun part that I want to add to this is that we have what we call a consciousness, a regular day-to-day consciousness. So we have a subconscious and a conscious. The subconscious stores a lot of memories and so forth of whatever has been experienced. The conscious is actually the part that is actually playing the role. And then we have the ego mind. So the conscious is the mind. And then we have the ego mind that works in the mind. And then, of course, we're connected to the soul and connected to the human entity. We're connected to the body, which also streams to the mind. Now, with the inverted matrix being unplugged by the end of the year, going into 2020, then we still have the ego deprogramming and deactivation within ourselves. Now, depending on how much power we give to it, how much we want to still play with it, it can linger for a while. Once we've gotten rid of the software program, or at this point in time, demised it or deactivated the ego mind, we still have the conscious mind that can mimic the ego mind. Now, I say that, but let me clarify that, because the mind is designed on programs. Okay, the ego mind is an artificial intelligent program that works with the mind. Now, even if you unplug that, so look at there's 3 layers to this. Okay. So there's first the inverted matrix. So the inverted matrix is constantly programming you, everyone. Let's put it this way. Now, it's programming the conscious mind and it's programming the ego mind. Now, the ego mind has its own operating system that makes everything go backwards, and it's very polarized, and it's not only polarized, but it's very much separation. So even if so here we take out the matrix, the inverted matrix is gone. Now you have the ego mind that still has that operating system that still projects everything in reverse. Okay, it's not getting new information, new data, or anything of that nature, but it's still playing that. So now you have to go through the process of getting rid of that part of it. Now, what is left? The conscious mind. What does the conscious mind work on? Software program. What is that made up of? Whatever you've been doing for a very long time that you've created patterns and responses and so forth. Okay, so then you're looking at it and say, well, I don't have that chatter anymore of that same level, but my default responses and default reactions and so forth are still there. Yes, because that's what the program is used to. Now you're going through the process of deactivating those programs or deprogramming those programs and allow your natural program to come in. So there's the 3 stages. So by the end of the year, we're getting no more streaming. Right now, it's already 60% less streaming, but you removed 100% of streaming. Then you're working with the ego, and then you're working with your overall consciousness. Once you deprogram the overall consciousness, then it's more receptive to the consciousness that your soul is streaming and your human entity is streaming and your body is streaming, and anything else it's also receiving through your third eye from other dimensions and other souls and so forth, so that it actually now fine-tunes itself to work in that respect rather than the conditioned program. Because when we look at it, just to bring some clarity, if you don't mind, is that when we go to school, when we are exposed to people, the media, anything and everything that we are exposed to, everything that we get trained to believe is the way it is, that is not only stored in the subconscious mind as a reference point, but the conscious mind actually conditions itself to work in the same way because it wants to match what it's been exposed to. So when we're actually doing the deprogramming, we're actually unplugging everything that we've learned from our parents, from the media, from education, from whatever else that we've been exposed to, including traditions, religions, you name it. So that's the part that we go through. We all are going through this. Some already started some time ago and have made a lot of progress and are still in the next level of progress. Others are a little further behind because they started a little later. Others, haven't even started yet or are being pushed to get started, right? So it's a process that we go through. Now, the beauty of all of this, the ones that started some time ago may have a head start in a sense, but they had to do it the harder way because, in essence, the energies were assisting them, but not to the degree it is now. So you will notice the stickiness, the heaviness, the amount of effort is required now compared to before is way, way less because it's more effort to keep it than to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. That resonates. You bring up like 3 questions here. But let me go back to, first of all, what you just ended with. So like, last night, well, actually we went for like 3 days. Morgan came up with this list in her conversations with her higher self, which was basically detaching, invocating the different labels of the female and then the male. And there was some type of course, for the individual, but also for, in this case, the couple. So last night I invocated them, and I hadn't done a list like that in quite some time. And I found it to be, when I went through the feminine part of it, and identified myself as each one of those roles, it took me a little while. But once I got going, it went really quick in comparison to when I've done this a while back, say a couple of years ago. It took a long, long time. When I went through the masculine part, which was easier for me to identify with the different labels, I went through very quickly. And I was kind of surprised by it, but I could feel the energy shift in me, right? So I think that's a really good point that you make, that just because something took a lot longer before, it's not going to take that long now. Now that brings up the second part of it. It sounds to me like this thing got inverted. So now we have, where we used to have this transmission come in or download, and we're looking for validation. Oh, did Franco write something that matches that, or you know what I mean? And the synchronicities or the validation. And now it sounds like with the projection of the inverted matrix, the 3D matrix being shut down, that the ego mind will not have any validation, and
Correct.
it shifts the other way. and the conscious mind. And it sounds to me like, which is what I guess was happening last night, that was a method of reprogramming and creating new pathways, I guess,
Mhm.
as you're describing. What I wanted to get to on the third part of it was, we've got October, well, what's left of October, then November, December, basically. And is there I picture like, when you fill up a bathtub or a sink and then you drain the water and you have that whirlpool going down and it's sucking everything down, like we're going into this portal or vortex, and all the debris that's left is becoming, faster and faster in our face and such. With that in mind, and then what you and both you, Marco, had said, is it a good idea to try to accept and not resist and not judge anything that comes in, even if we don't understand it? And do you see that it's getting thicker, more dense, this stuff that's coming down as we go into this portal, that it's in our face more, and it's louder? I mean, is that going to be something that continues to increase and accelerate as we move into 2020?
Yeah, when you're saying about more of the densities and stuff, that you're talking about stuff that's moving through us, or stuff that's being transmitted down
Well,
to through us.
even like today,
Mhm.
I can't say everything that I cleared as this energy came in, but I certainly felt it in my body. I
Mhm.
felt it in my nerves. Something, but there was obviously, through this 4 or 5 hour period, there was a lot of clearing and transforming. It was, I don't want to say it was very intense, but it was very unique, I guess. It was new. The depth of it was not only what was being presented to me, but also the communication I had with the things that were in the natural environment around me when I went for a walk. And I guess what I'm saying is it going to get more intense as we get closer and closer to the day when that projection is no longer here?
Well, absolutely, and that just keeps going through as we go through the process of time, what we call time. Well, as we're moving along, those alignments are occurring, so it's going to move a lot even faster. Now, I like the analogy that you said, like, you turn on the drain and it's flushing through. The energies that are coming through, that are being streamed, are kind of washing us down in a way, right? And it's being siphoned away from us. It's actually being pulled away through us. Now, depending how much we are holding on to it, whatever is flushing through us, we have always the opportunity to let it go. Okay. And when I say let it go, it's like the moment you go into surrender, it's like, okay, I'm not going to try to keep this. I'm not going to even attempt to hold on to this anymore. Okay. So say something difficult is coming up, or that you have a pattern that's coming up, all of a sudden you always run into people that are a little bit more aggressive or whatever it is. I'm just saying that. And you're trying to always convince yourself that you're not what they're saying or something of that nature, right? So that programming is still holding on. But the moment you say, okay, I release that, it doesn't matter. All right. I let go of the idea of whatever anybody thinks of or whatever anybody labels me for. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to hold on to it. I don't have to prove it. I don't have to justify it. I don't have to even explain myself. The moment you say that, the energies coming through will wash off those layers and layers of those programs, and it actually just goes back into source essence, and it becomes so much easier. And it's what I found with people. They are saying, wow, the moment I surrender trying to fight and keep something intact, I noticed that it actually just dissolved because it got flushed away from them. It's just really what's holding us is our identification that, first of all, that I have to hold on to it. Second of all, that I have to justify it, or that somehow I have invested interest in this. You know how many times have I heard that no one, people want the magic pill sort of thing. But in fact, if somebody's had an experience of life or a sequence of experiences of life where there's been some challenges, and somebody offered them, we can just wipe it all out so it doesn't exist anymore. like wipe it completely out of your consciousness. There's so many occasions where people, wait a minute, no, can't do it that easily. I suffered for 20 years. Okay, I have to have enough justification to warrant that 20 years. In a way, that's the words that they're using in a different using different words, because you're offered to take it away, and they're going, no, you can't take it just away, because this has been in my life. I've paid the price for it. I have to get something in return for it, right? Okay.
It's funny. It's funny. I love your analogy better. And I love, you think about attachment and you think about, oh, I don't want to let go of this thing I love, or my car, or whatever the case is. But you're talking about an attachment to a story, a trauma, whatever. We don't realize we're actually attached to it. That's a very good point.
Yeah. So with the energies coming through, back to that, the energies coming through, the moment you say, okay, it didn't matter whatever happened to me, whatever it was, I just leave it be. I just let it move through me. It's gone, right? So it just flushes through you because you're not holding to it. You don't identify. Because what happens is we get conditioned to believe that my life is this way because of all those things that happen. The moment you say, well, I let go of that, it doesn't even matter. And I am where I am now, and it doesn't matter either. And I don't identify with that, and I don't have to hold on to that, and I don't have to say that story to anybody anymore, because somebody says, well, what's your story? Well, this is what happened to me, blah, blah, blah. And they create a value system to that. And then there's a competition that comes in. And this is the part that we hold on to is, you've probably seen it where people are telling stories of their lives and each one is trying to supersede the other, in a sense of, oh yeah, look at what I went through and so forth, right? That's an indicator. Only reason I'm saying this is that's an indicator that you still have a vested connection to it and identification to it. But when you just say, it doesn't matter, I let the story just go, that's when what you're saying flushes through you, because in essence, it just no longer is required for you. And then the new you starts to emerge because the old you doesn't have to still be there.
Yeah. And that's what I was kind of referring to. It's like the things that are coming in are very well, they're attachments, I guess, of some sort. And they're like the things close to us, like labels such as father and husband and son and things like that. I mean, things that are really, really close to us, that when you take that stuff away, what is left? It's a little bit scary. So I can see what you're saying by when you talk to clients or people and they don't want to let go of something and be cured because, I mean, after all, I mean, if you take that away, where does that leave me? It's an interesting proposition.
Well, yeah, and the beauty of it is to understand, where does it leave you? It leaves you free. It leaves you expansive. It leaves you with much more potentiality and capacity to create. For example, you gave the example about, I'm the father, whatever. It's just as that. Well, I can't let go of that I'm the father, for example, somebody saying that. And the thing is, what are you letting go? You're letting go of what father actually meant based on the concept and idea that you had at that time, or what everybody else has been propagating over and over again. A father has to have respect, has to have this, and has to be responsible, has to be. But if you let all that go, then what does father mean? Father means is you're just another person with another person, or another, what you can call a child, that you're both on an open platform, because now you're dropping the rules of what it meant to be a father, and who should say and who should act this way, who has responsibility for other. The best part is a father, and I have this my own personal experience. I didn't adhere to the idea that I have two kids, but they're older kids, of course, but I didn't say, well, I'm your dad and this is what you need to do. You got to respect me this way, and whatever I say goes. No, I just saw myself as an equal to them. I played with them. I shared with them. I listened to them. I shared with them, and so forth. I saw them on an equal keel with it. And that was the dropping of what the father meant. I'm just to use as an analogy, because that replicates on so many levels. And it's not only father, but spouse, this, that, whatever, any label that we've taken on. And that's the thing. for us to go into our organic 3D and organic 5D state, those labels do not apply, because those labels were made in 2D and inverted 3D and in different levels of lower access of consciousness. So why do we romanticize it and keep trying to keep it intact and alive? It's like people saying, I want new, but I don't want to let go of the old. I want new, but I don't want to let go of the old. Doesn't make any sense. For the senses, you got to let go of the old for the new to come in, or else you're going to play the old and trying to play the old in a newer way, but that's still old. And when I say old, I'm saying an older state of consciousness, older frequency, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I don't think this is I don't think one of the options is you can have your cake and eat it too in this situation.
Well, the thing is, the beauty of it's about letting go of the old recipe of the cake and having a new recipe of a cake that you are going to create from scratch.
Yeah.
And then eat that one, the new one.
Yeah. And the fear thing, the fear things there, of course, this is the like the example you gave of the client who doesn't want to let go of that, doesn't want to be cured of that or be done with it because of what, the identity crisis that comes with it. But it shows up in other ways too. We've been hanging out here for like 4 days and there's bear poop all around the house. Right. And I saw one the other night. I was awoken at 2:22 in the morning. You got to go outside. I went outside and then I had this merging with this bear. But I was still like looking around for bears and stuff. So today, when this energy came in, I decided to go for a walk, and I came across the bear poop and everything, and I started to, I guess, find the bear, however you would explain that. I would say the consciousness or the spirit of the bear animal or whatever. And so basically, I said, hey, I guess I'm a little bit scared of you, and then it was just like this whole conversation happened. And it was then I was told that I had nothing to fear, that this was actually the energy of the bear marking a circle around where we would be staying, and this was an integration or a merging. It was an action of love, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, I was so freaked out. I wasn't real freaked out, but you think about it a little bit. You're like, hey, what am I going to do if a bear comes? I mean, they can run, they can swim, they can climb trees. I'm going to be shit out of luck, but no. So I see that kind of as the same thing. And I think Marco in the previous show brought it up too, about stepping through. I forget what the example was, but getting into that place where you remove, like you're using the term with the father thing. It's not really the name father or even the label father. It's the frequencies that come off of that connotation, that we're actually removing. So, yeah, very interesting stuff. It seems to be getting down to the gut level now. The cosmic and the galactic are kind of like stepping aside, and it's like mano y mano with the conscious mind, ego mind, and and the soul.
Well, one thing I can also suggest whenever you're wanting to connect with the bear, because there is a communication between you and the bears, okay? And the bears were saying, I'm here of service. And if you want to be scared by us, we'll play the role to scare you. But if you want to connect with us, we'll connect with you, because we're not here to scare you. We're here to connect with you. Yeah. But you've always wanted us to scare you. So that's why we play that role. And it's very interesting because that's what you'll get. Yeah.
That's how the conversation went. Wasn't the exact same words. And then the amazing thing was this tree starts talking to me that knew everything. Knew everyone and everything in the neighborhood. It's like, hey, this means this and that means that. And the next thing I know, I walk up in the yard and the deer, they're pretty close by, but I hadn't been that close to them. I took some pictures of them. They were just a few feet away. And I was talking to them, and then all these birds flew in, and I'm like, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is and it brought me out of that energy that came in, because I know it came in, because there's two of us here and we both felt it. But yeah. So it's a different language, but I guess it's in our memory banks when you get down to it.
Absolutely. And we have a strong connection with all of that, and they're just facilitating us too to communicate, because they want to go back to their natural state too, because their natural state is not what they've been playing. They've been playing out the program state that we've kind of also bought into the inverted matrix, because they very much played the role of the inverted matrix too, because we wanted to play the inverted matrix, and so everything needed to align that way. But when they are not to service in that way, they service in their natural way by being themselves, the same way we're being ourselves when we are being ourselves, because most of the time we're not, and that's the process we're going through to become more ourselves, right? And
so I guess in a sense, directly or indirectly, everything that's in our experience has been affected or was affected to one degree or another by the inverted matrix.
Yes, and the thing is, the level that is affected was really by our own doing, by how much power we wanted to engage with that. Because look at it this way: there's a lot of souls, the majority of souls, before they came onto the planet, knew that the inverted matrix was here and how it worked. They even got a chance to dabble in it, to look at it, and they say, "Okay, I'm signing up for that ride." Because the inverted matrix is there, right? And I know at some point that's not going to be an effect, but I know. So they'll come down and they say, okay, bring it on. I want to play the inverted matrix because I want to get my fill for it before I can move on with not requiring it in the same way. So
that reminds me of that meme that's going around on Facebook. It's an older lady with this expression of I don't even know what it is, just shock. and it says the expression on your face when you read the soul contract that you signed, as a human, right?
Yeah.
But that is important. I mean, we do, there is a lot of postulating and theorizing and people pulling in this and pulling in that. It doesn't always look the same, but the fact is we signed up for this, and that's actually a good thing. I mean, that in itself speaks a lot. Don't you think?
Well, it does. I mean, the fact that we come to that realization, then we don't feel like the victim that got dumped here, or the spaceship that came along. I'm just using this as an analogy. Had the wrong label on the address. The address label was incorrect, and you got dropped off at the wrong place, right? Type of thing. Because a lot of times people feel that way, and not so much that in that way where the spaceship, but I'm just saying, feeling that, I had no say in this, and here I am, going through this, the motions of having such intensities and poverty or whatever, or feeling that somehow, I got dealt a poor deck of, what is it, a poor hand of cards or something like that. I think there's a way to say that, but anyways, I was dealt a poor hand of cards or something, and that's only the inverted matrix, the ego mind, that will say that, because in fact that from a deep inside, I came here to experience it and then transmute it and transform it and be part of all of this beautiful dance. You think I didn't know? Oh, absolutely I knew. And not only did I know, I was excited to get down there because I really wanted to get lost in the game.
Yeah, like a kamikaze pilot.
Yes.
Full blast. We came in with a bang. Yeah. Would you say that yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, sometimes people think well, I didn't know better and I signed up for something. No, you did, but the thing is, you wouldn't believe how many want to sign up because it's as exciting as it is to be here, right? So it's not like my number came up, I gotta go now, even though I signed up. No, it's like, all right, I hit the jackpot. I get to go to Earth this time.
It's a lottery, man.
Basically, yeah.
Would you say that, to put it in layman's terms or simpler terms, would you say that as time goes on, especially as we get into 2020, that more and more of the consciousness or the frequency of people will be that we are here to play and create?
Yes. More and more people are already starting to realize it, but it would be much more, how can I say it? More in their presence. It's like, wow, okay, now I'm seeing it. And they start to feel lighter about it. And they actually, because when you remind yourself that you're here to play and to experience this, you're not going to put yourself, the labels don't have the same power as before, like, everything that you do, and you become more adventurous. You know that you come to the further realization that you're immortal anyways. You're only going to create whatever experience you choose, and then you're not going to be out unless you say, I'm out, at some level or another. So in that regards, as we're going through, we're going to feel more comfortable to bring not only our true essence, but that more creative ability, that more expressive and playful part of it. And it's going to become easier and easier to let go of whatever we held on to as who we thought we were. Because you're right, you said before, one of the obstacles is the identity crisis. If I'm not who I thought I have been for the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, who am I then? If that is not held on to, because that's going to be more uncomfortable to hold on to, then it's like, it's great. I can let go all of this because I don't have to identify with any of this any longer. In essence, when I am not identified, I am more potentiality. I am much more, I can be anything and everything, without having all those ties to what I thought I was or anything of that nature. So that shifts in a way where it becomes more exciting to be here, to play here, to have a physical form, and and it's no longer about survival or fight or flight or, being victimized. That won't even come as a reference. It's just, let's play, let's have some fun, let's connect with Todd, let's connect with whoever, let's see what we can do today. It's like what you were saying with Marco too. Well, yeah, I would love to collaborate. We've said this to ourselves, to each other too. Let's collaborate. And it becomes more of that. It's like, yeah, let's get together, let's collaborate, let's see what else we can do together, what else we can achieve at this point in time outside of the realm of whatever's been manifested,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to what he said about, what did he say? On demand, these particular souls, being in a higher demand as this thing continues. And there's a lot of talk about, service to the collective. That's in alignment with your own desires, service to self, I guess, and being true to yourself. Do you see a lot of service being delivered in the form of what we might call healing or energetic healing to the masses, available to the masses that will be needed and utilized? Or do you see it more of people collaborating, co-creating, creating an energy and spreading the frequency that way? Or is it going to be both ways?
Well, it would be more the latter than because of the fact that in essence, people will come together because everybody wants to be in a state of empowerment. And this is the thing, even service to others, it's really reminding them, helping them to actually be able to move through whatever state they're in. They're not looking, the whole idea of healing or fixing or something of that nature is not going to be so appealing, because it's not like, oh, you got to fix me. No, I'd like to be exposed to understand how I could actually shift my experience and actually get to that level of that I want to play in a new realm altogether within my physical presence. So the need for that is the reminder, the stimulation, the collaboration with one another. People are feeling of being of service, but the level of service where, okay, even someone doing energy work, okay, it won't be because I'm energetically healing you. I'm energetically stimulating the energy that's already in you that you can actually now utilize to bring yourself to the next level of whatever you choose to do. So you're holding a space of energy and reminding them and actually getting them a taste of that energy so that they can fly with it on their own and actually tap onto their own. It's not a matter of they don't have it, you have it, and you're giving it to them. No. one has access to it because they've done whatever they've done for themselves, and they're helping someone else access their own also, so that they all fly. Because nobody is disabled, everybody is fully abled. They may not be fully conscious that they can do it. So what you're doing is that. So most of the time, whenever you're exposed to somebody that's doing any particular work, the new modality is, let me remind you what you are capable of, what you're able to access, because this is what you want to use moving forward.
Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna, and we're already seeing this. I mean, I think you're seeing some type of transition, some type of change occurring in the old paradigm of energy, even energy practitioners, where it's kind of like, in this wobbly state. But it sounds to me like what you're saying is that at least the way I'm getting it is that our preconceived notions of what it might look like to serve the collective in a capacity that we're comfortable with and we're in alignment with, say, as an energy practitioner. But what we might have in mind preconceived is nothing like it's going to be. It's really actually more about the example, for lack of a better word, the example of the energetic example that we carry with us, which translates into what you're describing, which isn't necessarily, hey, Franco, let me have an appointment. It's like I run into you at the grocery store and you might verbalize something to me in a conversation, or you might even trigger me or allow me the opportunity to absorb some code from you so that I can fix myself and that type of thing. It's almost,
Yeah,
it's more vibrational.
Yeah, and the fixing is not really the fixing. It's a really an adjustment and a realignment to a different state of experience, because there's no broken experience ever. This is one thing that we need to keep in mind. There is no broken. Even the inverted matrix was never broken. It had a very specific purpose for it. So when we're looking at it, it's about, this is the thing, and this is what I was saying to people, that always kept saying, oh, we need to do healing and so forth. And I said, no, you're just accessing another level of consciousness and adjusting your current experience to the experience that matches more your consciousness at this point in time. So if you're having a health issue, for example, do you go for a healing? Or you have an emotional issue, do you go for a healing? No, you're actually going in to create an adjustment to whatever story, program, belief system, or whatever you had, so that it no longer needs to be held in the same fashion, so that it doesn't represent emotionally or physically in your experience. So what you're doing is you're shifting from one experience to another experience, because your viewpoint, your way of seeing and labels have shifted so that it's no longer there. So all of a sudden your experience changes. That's all you're doing. You're just shifting your experience because of some new level of consciousness or some form of new frequency that's coming through you.
Yeah. Morgan calls it transformation and reprogramming. I mean, it's because, like you said, even with these, what we talked about at the top of the show, with the energies coming down, whatever it may be, however that may look to you. I mean, it's that resistance. I keep going back to that example you gave with somebody coming in saying, hey, I want to be done with this. But then when you want to take it away, you don't want to be done with it, because when you take it away, something new's coming in. What is that? It's like, that's scarier than letting go. Like something new's coming in. Yeah. But that's really what it is.
But the interesting part with that, Todd, and I'm sure you can relate with this, newness, something new, something unknown is very exciting. It's very stimulating in so many levels. But the program that's been drilled into all of us by the inverted matrix and by others that are playing that is that change is scary, because we need to know every single step, because there's a safety and unsafe experience, and change equals unsafe until you can prove it's safe. Meanwhile, your true nature, your true essence is about creating new all the time, new adventures, new ways of moving forward, and it's excited about it rather than afraid. So the fear is really from from the programmed ego mind, and sometimes the or what you call simulated, what the conscious mind will do because of patterns. But it's not about that, because once you shift a lot of that, new is exciting. Like, for example, you've been moving around a lot, and you can be terrified for every move because you don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know if you're going to sleep in the car, whatever it is, for a day or two or three, whatever's going on. You don't know if the funds are going to be there for anything, right? And if you give power to the ego mind that's going to say, oh my God, what are we going to do? Then you're going to dread the move. But in essence, if you're kind of in a surrendering open space, your soul saying, okay, let's go and let's see what we can create in Sedona, and then in whatever, any place that you go. And because it knows we're going to create exactly what we need, how we need it, when we need it, to the degree we need it, with ease. None of the other stuff matters, because the other stuff is all concocted ideas from inverted programs and belief systems.
Yeah. Fear programming is fear programming, and it amazes me. I mean, I had an incident yesterday, and it was just from an observation standpoint. It brought something home, and it had to do with the frequency of disclosure. Somebody was projecting this out, and I was amazed. I was amazed because I've gotten hit a couple of times because I'll say, you know what, it's not that I have a problem with QAnon or Trump or any other political religious, none of that. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about that. To me, it's about if your attention's on that savior programming or whatever the case may be, then it's not on where it needs to be. Anyway, so
Mm-hmm.
this frequency came at me, and it was and it was good stuff, hey, this is happening, the white hats are in the back doing this and doing that, and everything's getting better, so I can kind of appreciate that. But the the comment that got me had to do with, protect our borders, protect the US, are you a patriot, and this and that, and I thought, wow, wait a minute, this is a pretty high level frequency, truth bearing frequency up here, but it's got this attachment to, we have borders, a patriot, I mean, you're either a patriot or you're not a patriot, or you're an American or not an American, or you're good or bad, I'm like, wow, that's some deep programming. So, and obviously I took that into myself, and the guy did trigger me. And so about 10 minutes later, I went back to him and had a little chit chat. But yeah, it's amazing how deep this programming has gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
What a
and
beautiful, brilliant, perfect design.
yeah, absolutely, and exactly, and you can see what state of consciousness someone's in, how much progress they've made by, how much reference they put into stuff like that you've just mentioned, with, patriotism and borders, or, we got to protect, or we got to do. The moment you use that, that they're coming from a program based, because in essence, when that's not in there, you don't even refer to any of that. It's just like, okay, how do we create from here, and what do we play with? It's just a matter of expressing, being, whatever, because it doesn't perpetuate, right, wrong, good, bad, light, dark, borders, or that we need to, there's the victimizers and victims and all of that stuff. None of that becomes part of the dynamics, because that dynamics only exist in a less conscious state, and the moment you say, is it safe, who's saying that? Is it your higher
Yeah,
self?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I've been saying this to myself a lot lately, and I don't know, maybe going back, I don't even know how, maybe a couple of months. And that is, as things come into, and regardless of how real they might seem, like say a matrix infrastructure, the finance or money or whatever, rules, laws, I keep saying to myself, that's not in my experience. I'm no longer, that's not part of my experience. Somebody will bring something up to me about this or about that, and I'm like, I can't relate. That's not in my experience. I'm not going to give it another thought. I'm sure there's got to be other people doing that in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that that's going to have to affect, as that groundswell grows, that's going to have to affect from, let's just say, the non-physical, from the thought, from our energy or intention. It's going to have to affect these things that we see as so real and change them, I guess, to put it in layman's terms.
Yeah, yeah, and you're updating the way you see things and so forth. So even the whole idea, with the monetary, other monetary, the first part of the shift that happens, it's not, okay, I don't have it in my consciousness anymore. It's the importance, the labels, what it represents, doesn't represent, is the first part that starts to fade away, because you're not going to give it any more importance. Then the requirement of it being there to make your life good or bad or anything starts to fade away too. And the fact that, now you have to put effort to have it starts to fade away. And then eventually, as you're going along, whatever's required just kind of exists while the game is there. But when the game all fades away, where the fact that even the monetary system is no longer required, because you come to a level of consciousness and you'll see that it cannot fit in there. There's no way, because not to demise anything, because a lot of people like to still give power to the fact of, say, money is energy and all of that stuff. Well, everything is energy. You can't say anything is not. But at the same time, you're going to see that energy does not match that new state of consciousness of organic 3D, organic 5D. And you're going to say, well, why would I keep something that is very reflective of 2D and inverted 3D in my new reality creation here and use that as an instrument within it? It doesn't make any sense. So it's just like, okay, let's release it. And does that mean we end up having anarchy, or we start having scenarios where, we haves and have not? No, it starts to not only balance out, but it actually becomes free flowing, because then there's no requirements and no perceived lacks or anything of that nature, because it doesn't even come into our reality. Because on other planets, monetary systems or credits or who does what or anything of that nature does not exist, especially all the ones that are more advanced. It doesn't exist. To them, that's like foreign. It's like, what are you talking about? You're going to create a system that you got to judge, juggle around. It's humorous to watch here. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just making a joke. It's like playing Monopoly.
Yeah.
No, I wanted to ask you something. You brought something up that I think it's on a personal level, but I think it has a collective implication, no doubt. As an individual goes, so goes a collective. But you talked about the soul recognition that you had with our friend Marco, and not to single that out, but there's a lot of people, and we've experienced. I've watched Morgan meet 3 or 4 different ladies, and they had these incredible 10, 15, 20-minute tear-laden soul recognitions that were you just can't refute it. And I've seen others, and I've had a few myself. Is this something, I mean, that's a powerful, powerful thing. I could see it in your eyes and hear it in your voice when you were talking about Marco. What is that? That just seems to be like a huge illumination, like an explosion. Is that something we're going to see more of? And does that, or does that not have just a huge effect on what we might call the human hybrid grid, that real-time experience that we're all having?
Well, what I find with people, when you meet people and you have a soul recognition, a lot of times you recognize that you've had other journeys together, and you had other adventures on different playgrounds, for example, and in different forms, and the recognition is that that we realize that, we've made this opportunity to meet again after going through whatever, incarnations of different levels and so forth. And also a celebration of us, when you meet somebody of that nature, especially a soul recognition, and seeing the progress and meeting on the playground at this time with their various progresses and so forth that they've made and what they've come to do and so forth. There are other alignments where, you've made agreements that at some point, if we get to this level here, we'd like to meet again. So that's when you have those soul recognitions. There's going to be more of that, because a lot of times they're bringing to the table or bringing to the playground, past experiences, because what happens, it ignites the memories of what they've played on different realms. And now it's not like just you bringing in the seed of a higher consciousness of how to do things a certain way. You're also bringing another playmate, or you're connecting with another playmate that is also familiar, that have played together. Now you have two souls that are emanating the same understanding, the same experience, but that becomes more than just two. It becomes, multiples of that. And that starts to become even more impactful from a collective perspective. So that's kind of the role that plays. And a lot of times we also recognize each other from non-form, where we've actually, connect at nighttime, or when we are astro traveling or something of that nature, when we're outside the body, when our souls are outside the body, and they may be doing a project somewhere else, or they may be interacting somewhere else, or be on a council or something of that nature. And then there's that recognition. It's like, oh, okay, now we recognize ourselves in form from the non-form, because we weren't ready in alignment to meet in form. So most of our meetings and most of the interaction was in non-form, in the astral planes or whatever there may be, or on other parallel worlds, for example. And so then when they're ready, the alignments come in, they meet, and now they have a purpose that they come to bring, or offering that both can offer for the collective once they collaborate or something of that nature. It's like even the discussions that we're having, that's a collaboration. That is very powerful, because without you, I couldn't share what I share, and I can't, what I say helps you share what you share. And I know you're doing this with other people too. I'm not saying that, but this combination alone has a very unique part. And then the next combination that you have with somebody else has another unique part. So everybody's kind of, that you're connecting with. And even though may have known each other for a very long time in other planes and so forth, but it wasn't until, several months ago when we started to, say, get on the airwaves together and collaborate in that way by sharing our understandings, our experiences, and so forth. Our communication that we have and the communication we have with others may have a difference, but each one is unique, and each one is very specific to do whatever it needs to do for what the collective aspect. You become kind of the hub that's hosting that, as the other energies and consciousness come in and experiences come in to facilitate.
Yeah, absolutely. Great explanation. And then on the subject of downloads, personal downloads, transmissions, channelings, whatever. A lot of people talk about the higher self. And I'm going to bring this up because I had an experience last night. We laid down and clasped hands as always. We were quiet. We didn't discuss it. We still haven't discussed it because we haven't had a chance to, whatever happened last night when we review things. But in the communion that I had last night, and obviously she was a part of it, even though there was nothing said. But one of the things that really jumped out at me that happened was I felt a single voice, which I've heard all my life, come in, as an energetic force into the physical body, which I'm not saying I haven't experienced something like that before, but this was very, very, very deep. Now, the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people talk about the higher self. At the same time, I've had, intelligence or code come in, or whatever information come in from other aspects, as I understand it, of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a higher self, or what people might call an oversoul? That is the main piece that we are embodying, or does it even matter? But is there one stronger, I don't know, I want to say maybe higher voice or composite voice that's composed of all these other multidimensional aspects, that is us, truly us?
Yes. So we have, okay, this might take a couple of minutes to explain, but I'll try to simplify it as best as possible. So each
Take
and
your
every,
time.
Yeah, each and every soul has a twin soul with a similar signature that has different experiences, that have different exposures of consciousness, and that we are connected with. So our higher self is made up of that, and also what we stream from our twin soul. Okay, but then we have an oversoul. Now, what the oversoul is made up of is a cluster of 12 souls, and these souls a lot of times have split. So they're really a combination of 24 souls, and you happen to be one of those, of the 24, for example, of your oversoul. Now, the oversoul basically is not an individualized soul, it's a cluster soul that is connected to each one. And it basically takes information, consciousness, experiences, and so forth from all of the other 23, or it's basically 24 souls, but you are, say, one of the 24. So when you're tapping into your oversoul will also be communicating through you. The overall capacities and accessibilities of all of those other 23 souls that are out there experiencing. And a lot of those souls are not in human form. They may be in different forms from different realms and different levels of dimensions and so forth. So that you have the oversoul. But those oversouls are connected to other oversouls, which are also other clusters that are communicating back and forth. Now, some of us also have arrangements with our brother, sister souls that may have been from, for example, say that you were on a Syrian planet and you have a very close connection to many souls that have played on the Syrian planet, and you've made an agreement to actually be the recipient to receive transmissions when appropriate from those souls that were very Syrian experienced, because they had something to offer to the human experience, since it happens to be one of the DNAs, but that level of consciousness. So you will become, when ready, when the alignments all come together, that you will be the recipient to receive that information, those codes and so forth, so that it actually modifies how you express and experience, so that you will be channeling that out in your own energy, but also in your communication to the collective, or whoever is actually drawn to your cluster of collective, because we all reach various people all over the world, but it's not for everybody all the time, even though at one level it is, but on a level where they have to hear you, understand you, acknowledge whatever is there, that again is very specific. So you'll be drawn, like the people that listen to your programs and so forth, that they're the ones that are drawn to you and whoever you're hosting or whoever you're interviewing or having a conversation with. So that's what occurs. So a lot of times when you get to a certain level of readiness, then your oversoul says, okay, Todd, we're going to now download you, transmit you another level of codes, another level of beingness that you can now start to utilize from the human form. The same thing will happen, say, just to use the Syrian one, back to what we were saying before, and you've reached a certain level of consciousness where you are able to harness, hold and transmit that particular level of consciousness because of whatever readiness you've achieved in your own adjustments in yourself. And then they will stream to you that level of consciousness because you can actually utilize it. And it's not personalized. Yes, it affects you personally. That's the first level. But it's more because that change in you affects your realities and multi-realities around you, and affects also the collective. So it takes all of that in view, right? So that brings actually to the next level of service, where you're now bringing that level of consciousness. For example, I don't know if you've heard of Bashar. Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of. Yes.
Okay, so like he channels Daryl Anka, I think is his name. He channels Bashar, which is a being that he has an agreement with, which he made the agreement, but later on in his life, all of a sudden it became that he was ready to allow that channel to come through. That is a version of himself 400 years or so ahead of time in one of the parallel worlds or one of the potential worlds that could have been. And it's sharing that information. It's not the information is 100% exactly what needs to be experienced here, because, you know, we're completely new all the time, but it's information from 400 years in advance experiences that is coming through that we can internalize and make our own adjustments within ourselves. So that was an agreement that was made at that time. So we all have agreements with versions of ourselves, either with our twin soul, our oversoul, various species and beings that we've, you know, connected with before, or have a very close energetic imprint with, and so forth. So those are all offering, when ready, different downloads. Okay. And sometimes some people become channelers, and other times it's just really your integration and your sharing, because that becomes more quite truer when you're not just channeling, you're actually internalizing it, experiencing it in yourself, and now you're sharing it from an experiential aspect rather than just pure channeled.
Yeah, I like that. And so would you say that you know, a lot of people talk about their team, you know, and it could be a team of angels, galactics, whatever. I mean, in my own case, I know I've seen a lot of different, you know, and Morgan, a lot of different aspects, some primary ones, some not. And certainly other people. Would you say that when people are referring to their team, they're referring to this 24?
In many cases, it is, yes. In other cases, there's also agreements that are made by, you know, for example, in my particular case, the team that I work with, they're beings. They're not from my oversoul, but they are also from ones that I've had experiences with and worked with over the years in different incarnations and so forth. So for me, with that is the team. Some team, you know, have different playmates that they've had agreements with that are from different realms. Other ones are exactly that, you know, they're the streaming that are coming from their oversouls and so forth. So there's different teams that people refer to, but the majority of the teams are basically souls that have agreed to collaborate at certain points of evolution or expansion on planet Earth, and saying, okay, then we'll work with you. We'll work with you on the back end, but we'll also assist you on the front end. For example, like you call it the boots on the ground type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. For example, like even with the beings that I work with, again, they're very much open to share things, to work with me and whatever else. But then they also rely on the fact that I can share it to the people with the boots on the ground, for example, like you use the terminology, like, for example, this conversation that we're having. But then I also have like 84 other souls that are combined that my soul communicates with, and it's actually all united. So there's that consciousness that comes through. And then the remembrance that it has access to being on different realms, different planets, and different, so it brings all kind of a mixture of all of that. So and that makes it even more expansive, and that was one of the things where I felt very comfortable with sharing, because to me, the games that we're playing on Earth is just one very limited version. Not to demise it or to look down at it, but to say that we have way more that we can do, and we're prepared for it. And so let's bring that in, and that's why I don't like doing the okay. We'll deprogram you from one program and put another program. Just to give you an example, a simple analogy. You know, somebody is not confident, okay? They don't have self-confidence, right? So you can go and say, well, that's deprogram self-confidence and that's program confidence, right? But you realize that having confidence is actually still a polarity and a limit, and it still requires certain rules. So the point is, my point from day one was, don't deprogram the whole idea that I'm not confident and I need to be confident. Get rid of the whole idea that the confidence even exists, and just be you, right? Why program and then deprogram and then do the same thing over and over again? It's just like, just go to the core essence of who you are. These are all made up rules. If you want to take it on for whatever period of time, but don't identify with it. Don't make that your reality, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it just makes it easier for us to move, especially now. It's so hard to go say, oh, I'm going to deprogram from this and program something else, because most of those programs that exist are all 2D and inverted 3D. Why bother with that? Let's go into that new level of creation. Same thing with manifestation. You can manifest, but manifestation is a replication of something that's already been created. Let's go into creation mode. So now we create everything new from a higher state of consciousness with new downloads, with new capacities and so forth, stuff that we have never created before.
Yeah. That sounds like the object of the game to me. It sounds like pure bliss. You know, you brought up twin soul before. When you speak about twin soul, I've not really heard anyone that I can recall that speaks in the same way. So I don't recall all of it, but like, I mean, as an example, and I know we don't want to get caught up in semantics, but utilizing the word twin soul. Can you kind of explain what a twin soul is, like from your own capacity? I mean, as if you are, or if you see yourself as a twin soul.
Yeah,
And can you also touch on? Could you also touch on after that? Could you touch on the twin flame thing, where it's brought about all this confusion and just you know what I mean?
yeah. No problem. And I'm glad you asked that, because that becomes very confusing for people all the time. There's a lot of different beliefs and ideas what a twin soul is and so forth. Realistically, when a soul becomes an individualized soul that is going out for a pure expression, they all carry a certain frequency and they all carry a certain signature. And the signature is like an IP address, or it's actually like a telephone number or something of that nature, so that it maintains a certain level of uniqueness of itself. So it's an expression that actually expresses itself slightly different from any other expressions that is there. So it doesn't replicate its experience. So you could say, oh, well, we'll just take the souls and all have the same frequency and they all go out and create. Yeah, you can create variety, but in essence, because they vibrate at a certain similar frequency, it's limited to the amount of expressions that they could have, because the range has to be always stretched. But when you want to really create as much differentiation, something like that, when you want to create as multiple expressions as possible, then you're going to make sure that each one is a slightly different frequency and different code, just so they don't overlap. So every soul has a signature. Right. Now, as part of an experiment, it was done to say, okay, let's do this. Let's take one soul, split it with the exact same signature, and now stream them out to different directions, different incarnations, different realms, different dimensions, different whatever, right? So they go out, they have the same signature and the same frequency, but they're on different playgrounds, or they're on different timelines, or they're in different, dimensional consciousness, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. So because they have the same signature, there's a more direct line of communication. It's like a walkie-talkie that has crystals that have one specific frequency that can talk to each other very clearly without changing the dial, sort of thing. So wherever your twin is, whatever experience it's having, it's also sharing with you, and vice versa, right? And so that's what we're looking at. Now, eventually, what happens is when those two expressions have had multiple lives and multiple expressions and experience, and they've reached a certain saturation point, saying, okay, we don't need to do this any longer because we've achieved certain level of alignment, those two halves, they're not half souls, those two duplicate souls merge and they become one soul again, because they're already the same signature. And then the experiences of both become one unit, and they go through an expression as that one unit, okay? So that's what a twin soul is. Now, there's so much romance and so much connections to the fact of meeting your twin soul and you're in nirvana, and that there's all of this other stuff that's projected, because a lot of it has been projected from past beliefs and so forth, and mystical ideas of what it represents and so forth. The twin soul is not like, okay, it's your ideal match. In fact, a lot of times your ideal match can be the most challenging because there's so much similarities, and it doesn't allow them to be so expressive in the way where they can be a certain level of uniqueness. So a lot of times when you meet your twin soul, yes, you're going to feel the magnetic pull because of the identical signature and the magnetic frequencies being very much pulled. But when twin souls meet and they're still in physical form, they go into service. Two levels of service. The first service is servicing each other to bring each other to the highest capacities before serving as a unit to serve the masses, for example. So they'll come together with one main purpose. That's create alignment as best as possible. And if that means we got to push every freaking button that you may have, bring up any insecurities, any old stories, programs, belief system, whatever it is, we will do so that we can purge it all out and access those higher tones, higher consciousness, higher states of being, so that we can create a powerful alignment. Now, the beauty of twin souls is that they don't have to monitor how many buttons to push. Because, let me say one thing, you meet someone that may be your soulmate. They may be soul family. They may be just souls you met the first time. They push each other's buttons, they trigger each other, they remind each other, they do all types of things of that nature. But there's only so much they can do before it becomes too overcharged where they push each other away. Okay? So they say, okay, I can only do this much without, putting so much contrast that we're going to push each other away and say, okay, I don't want to play with you anymore because you push too many buttons, right? Type of thing. But when a twin soul is involved, there's a soul pull, a very powerful soul pull. So they can actually push it to the next level. They can push more buttons. They can do more without them breaking apart, because breaking apart becomes very difficult to do so because of that magnetic pull, because of that matching vibration. So in essence, they will challenge each other more intensely to refine themselves, to purify whatever it is, to purge whatever it is. And then their alignment becomes so harmonious because now they don't have any of these programs anymore. They're creating a third energy, which is exponentially grander, and now they are of service in a much more powerful way. There are souls that have come onto the planet that are fairly recent, or ones that souls have left, merged with their twin soul off planet, and then came back into the body, that have come for the next level of service, because now they're bringing both channels of energies together, which makes them even more refined and more powerful. So that's how it works in that aspect. When we're talking about the twin flames, it's one and the same. It just has a different label, but they're looking at it from a different perspective, in the sense of more, a lot of times saying, well, it's your ideal complement, or complement, whatever you want to call it. I think that's how they call it, complement. So that, it's much more powerful because of that. A lot of times the twin flame things is a misunderstanding. It could be a very powerful soulmate that they may have had before, or it could be a soul family that they've connected with, or sometimes. So it can get misinterpreted, but it doesn't matter. The thing is the pull, whatever plays out, plays out. The whole romanticizing, because I've been working with twin souls for many years, because there were a lot more coming onto the planet where they were meeting in person physically. And, many of them, when they come together, they're thinking that, here you are, you feel very powerful, very pulled together and so forth, but you're still being of service to each other. And then they're going, well, why do we always argue? Why do we push our buttons to each other? Why do we trigger ourselves? Why do I feel like I can't stand them? I need to get away from them. And meanwhile, I can't, right? Because they were thinking that it would be one way or another. And I say, no, that's the perfection of it. You're refining each other. You're crystallizing your true core essence, because all of the stuff that's not you, that you've adopted, is you're helping each other to get rid of that, to purge it out, so that you can be more refined and to be more in tune what you need to do. So a lot of people had to understand that, because they couldn't understand why, they feel pulled, but they're ready to kill each other in a way sometimes, as a simple analogy of it.
I love this. I love this explanation. I have to, put everything in little blurbs, but it sounds like you can't fake it. It sounds like you can say whatever you want to say. You can present it however you want to, but you can't fake it. That's a great explanation. It really, really is. Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, before we head out, do you have anything coming up? Anything going on?
Well, we had our last workshop that we had on the 5th of October. It's available in video and audio. That if anybody wants to get it, it was very powerful. It explained how all the things worked with organic 3D and organic 5D, how we move into it and everything else. So that's available, and I can put that link in there if they want to get the audio and video recordings of it. I also have another workshop the beginning of November coming in, which is part 2, which is more hands-on on how to fine-tune so that you can actually play in the 3D and 5D, organic 3D and 5D, and that's going to be very hands-on sort of thing. It's going to be a live stream, and also video and audio recordings will be available, so you can repeat it, and also if you can't attend at that time. The date hasn't been set 100%. I should have it probably more set this week, and we're working on the write-up, so we're going to have it available very shortly. So that's kind of the second part of it. It's much more into integrating and so that we can move a lot quicker. Because a lot of people are saying, well, here we are, I'm looking at the world the way it is, and so forth. And, I don't feel that much has changed. But the thing is, the workshop on the 5th explained why we're seeing what we're seeing. But now let's get on the fast track to really integrate the organic 3D and organic 5D, and actually start seeing those changes actually play out in your life even more actively for you. So that's coming up. I think it's about the first week of November. So it will be about 3 weeks away approximately. And we will post that shortly. And I will post the fact that they can get the ones, and I'm going to send you a copy anyways. Thank you for all your assistance too. And
absolutely.
And any support on your end also.
Absolutely. Yeah. That'll be just in time for the 11/11, another gateway. Yippee.
Yes.
But all right, I look forward to the next collaboration. I really look forward to the one we do where we're standing side by side, and your friend the maestro is conducting the music.
Yes. So as you mentioned earlier, that he's arriving Saturday night, this Saturday coming up in the evening, and he's here till Tuesday or Wednesday. So if we can align it, we'll contact you. We can probably be side by side and do something together if you're open to that.
Oh, I'm definitely open to that. I was actually talking about you coming to the States.
Oh yeah, I look forward to that. I look forward to that, and I'm hoping to do it in 2020 for sure. And the earlier part, the better.
Yeah. No, I can feel it. It's all coming. Yeah. You guys give me a call if you guys want to do something on the cuff. I mean, I'm ready to do it whenever you are. I mean, I'm open. I'm just out here with the bears and the deer and all that stuff.
So cool.
I'll be here in the studio with great internet. Go figure that. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. It's good to see you again, Franco. Tell Kimberly hi.
I will.
Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Well, thank you for everything you do, and my best to Morgan too. Thank you.
All right. Take care.